I'm a guinea pig, and someone's got to be, and I'm ready. I'm sort of sick of being like this, so any improvements will be good.
Traditional surgery approaches don't approach the ideal with respect to recreation of normal anatomy.
I mean, I'd be quite happy if there was no further improvement on her looks, because at the end of the day, she's Sophie. It doesn't really matter.
Using these modern manufacturing methods, now for the first time, we're able to work to a level of accuracy that haven't been possible before.
And with this sort of surgery, there's nothing in the books. You just have to make it up as you go along. Got a little bit of lac relief or something. Spread a bit here for a second.
I'm getting it. Sophie knows she's lucky. She's grateful for her 2 healthy kids and to the surgeons who removed a massive facial tumour. But she's determined to go to the limits of what's medically possible to restore her looks.
Well, I look normal before the tumour or before the operation. You know, a lot more on this side, replicated on the other. How I look now, I actually think I look a bit scary.
Sophie and Scott were happily married, had 2 small children, and had just moved the family to Taupo when Sophie became frustrated by a seemingly simple complaint: a continually blocked nose.
I couldn't clear it. I tried all sorts of chemicals, and it didn't work, so I went to a naturopath, tried them, tried a few other things suggested by some other naturopath friends, and it just wouldn't clear.
So August 2005, Sophie had her first operation in Rotorua to correct what we thought was a deviated septum. And while the surgeon was there, he saw some abnormal-looking tissue, so he took a sample of that, got tested and came positive as a tumour.
And so began a journey that has dominated their world for almost 5 years. The vital first stage was dealing with the tumour and risk to her life. But it was brutal surgery. Most of the left side of Sophie's face would have to be removed.
Yeah, a bit of a shocking meeting for me, because I just thought, you know, a bit of the cheekbone or something like that had been infected by the tumour, but no, it was a lot more than that. I kind of think of it like a mushroom. I know it's kind of weird, but you've got a substrate which a mushroom grows on, and that's the bone, and then the mushroom grows. So what had happened is that I think it had started growing on my cheekbone, and then the fleshy part came up around here and started impacting on my sinuses, which is why I couldn't breathe, and started going over. So you had the kind of fleshy part, but then you had the actual infection on the bone. It's such a rare thing to get, and not at my age.
Originally, we did a standard or traditional reconstruction on her. She had a tumour removed, and we did a free-flap reconstruction, which is the standard style of reconstruction, but her defect, a mid-face defect, is really hard to close. And they're probably one of the hardest defects to reconstruct.
The major operation was basically removing the palate, removing my whole cheekbone, removing the bone that goes up here, and removing the floor of my orbit. They took a centimetre, I think it was about a centimetre ahead of the tumour, just to make sure that I had a clear rim around it.
And it's pretty fair to say that she had a pretty bad outcome from that. It didn't go so well, her eye dropped down. And instead of pulling it all apart and starting again from scratch, we tried to sort of layer on little things to try and make it better all the whole time. And in fact, it just made it worse.
When they first did the operation, I think my face looked magnificent, but with gravity and the swelling and everything else, it's kind of pulled it all down. And I think that impacted on the bone and kind of put it out of position. The only real discomfort I have is around the eye, because it's quite low sitting, and it's with the scar tissues dragged down. I can't close my eye properly, so I normally look at people like this if I've got a little bit of a funny kink, because I've got this little window down here where I can see normally. So I do tend to walk around doing a lot of that. Very distracting having the double vision, particularly in working situations. And the other probably pain is my mouth doesn't open properly.
She's trying to accept the situation, but it's taking a toll.
I can't hide, you know, I don't want to do that, and I think I'm kind of a naturally sort of outgoing kind of person.
It's a big hit on her self-esteem, and it only, every now and then, it bubbles to the surface of how much it has affected her, and you know that when that comes to the surface, that it's been boiling up for a long time, because she keeps a lot to herself.
And Sophie's had a terrible time, and weaker people probably would have succumbed to the psychological pressure of this disease, but she's pretty strong-willed. She's got a good family support, and and she's got hope as well, so which a lot of these head and neck cancer patients don't have. The reason you don't meet many people with head and neck cancer is they get head and neck cancer and they never come out of their houses again.
What do we do first? Gotta do these things, remember that's last.
Sophie's had 5 surgeries over the 4 years, and while medicine has ensured the tumour and its threat to her life is now removed, the science of restoring her vision and her looks is less than perfect.
You don't understand.
Young and with so much life ahead of her, Sophie's made a clear decision. She's determined to hang in there and do whatever it takes to achieve an appearance she's comfortable with. It's only when you see the digital images of Sophie's mangled face that you start to understand the level of invasion she's had to endure. And now she faces more surgery.
You can see the implant that's going to go in there and hopefully the change in terms of particularly the eye that's going to happen and the change in contour through here.
Traditional surgery aims for implants to be within millimetres of the patient's natural structure. Sophie's next round of surgery will use engineering principles to carefully plan the rebuild of her face. The new implant will replicate Sophie's bone structure and be accurate to within a 20th of a millimetre. It's possible through exact computer modelling of Sophie's skull, combined with new manufacturing techniques.
What they're going to do is cut through my scar, through down here, peel my face back, take everything out that's in there at present, including the bone that's from my leg. And you can see the implant on the computer screen here, which I've got a replica here, which obviously doesn't have the orbit floor or the teeth. So they'll put that in here. And this will be made of titanium. My hope is that I'll look back to being what I used to look like as much as I can, really. There's so many worse people off than me. I haven't got cancer. It was benign, it's gone. I've still got all my life ahead of me, with my family, with my children, etc. So I actually feel lucky.
She's 2.2 to 1 to 2.3, so we're approaching normal.
The use of these highly engineered implants is being pioneered in New Zealand by Ninian Pickett, a consultant oral and maxillofacial surgeon. He's part of Massey University's School of Engineering and Advanced Technology, where surgery is mapped out using mathematical equations. Ninian sees the future of surgery embracing the precise concepts of engineering.
A lot of clinical interventions that are carried out at the moment using traditional surgery approaches don't approach the ideal with respect to recreation of normal anatomy, normal contour, normal function, etc. And the net result of this is that there is a disability that exists following surgery, and with the right planning we should be able to limit this, this cost that the patients have to suffer.
Sophie's reconstruction will be a collaboration between engineers, computer designers, dentists and surgeons.
We've got this part which has been EBM'd. It consists of the cheekbone or the zygoma, the orbit or the eye socket here, and the projection of the alveolus for the teeth. It's my intention to make bone grow over this surface of the implant here by putting a layer of collagen on it, and then impregnating the collagen with a growth hormone called bone morphogenetic protein, and we'll get an area of bone growing over the surface of this with a blood supply that will supply the skin, with nutrition and make the implant less likely to ulcerate through.
The actual implant has been made in Sweden using a new melted titanium powder technique not available in New Zealand. An engineering firm in Auckland is doing the finishing work.
That's exactly Sophie's skull.
That's taken from a CT
So,
scan.
I mean, we've got to make sure that our fitment fits exactly to that, so it'll fit exactly to Sophie when you open it.
Yeah, we're going to put some screws through here.
In terms of surgery, it's radical. But for the team at the engineering firm, it's just another machined part.
It's really just an extension of what we do for plastic injection moulds and have done for engineering for the last 20 odd years. It's just I suppose the new thing for us is you coming along and understanding what engineers can do, and we're getting an understanding what surgeons can do.
So does it surprise you that surgeons don't routinely use this sort of concept when they're doing bone surgery, for example?
Well, now I've seen it, yeah, it does surprise me. I mean, it's just fantastic. It's, you know, it's really the way to go.
The advantages of using rapid product manufacturing is that we can make much more complex shapes that are not possible by milling implants from blocks of titanium using computerized, numerized control mechanisms. And a part like this would be quite impossible to make using these CNC techniques, which are very time-consuming and costly on the factory floor. So we can produce a rapid product manufactured part for about 25% of the cost of a normal part from CNC milling techniques.
Being the forefront, yes, a little bit nervous. I'm a guinea pig, and someone's got to be, and I'm ready. I'm sort of sick of being like this, so any improvements will be good. Here we go. Whee!
Over the years, Sophie's children have had to adjust to their mum disappearing off to hospital and returning days later looking black and blue and a wee bit scary.
I had her face black. I don't want to face.
Is that when I came out of hospital a long, long time ago? Yeah, I see.
I ran away.
You did run away. I looked a bit scary, eh?
You look like a black monster.
Did I?
Yeah.
The major operation, I wouldn't let them see me while I was in hospital because it was pretty scary. I mean, I found it pretty scary. Got home here after 10 days and was sitting on the couch and the kids came running and, "Mummy, Mummy."
They saw her and turned around straight away and ran away. I'll never forget that. It was absolutely heartbreaking.
They were scared. They were scared. In fact, they still mention it every now and then, knowing that I've got this upcoming operation.
I think initially the kids, the psychological was mum looks so different, and then mum looking different was mum looking normal. And now we're flipped around the other way, that a lot of her doesn't want mum to go have surgery again because she likes her just the way she is. He doesn't want to go through that again.
Throughout all the surgeries, Sophie's maintained her job as the Reserves Planning Manager at the Taupo District Council.
My job involves meeting people of the community and working with counsellors and working in the chamber with counsellors. I try and kind of relax them. I've got this little line where I go, "Excuse me, I'm under reconstruction," and so we have a little laugh about it or whatever. But yes, just that initial meeting people and sort of working in those areas where people don't know me or don't know what's happened, I feel kind of quite self-conscious.
There's times when she doesn't cope, and I think sometimes she's working very hard, too hard, and I think that's how she's coping. She's just throwing herself into that, just to busy herself.
Stair stopping would be nice because that does get me down. In fact, there's times when I just look down or like at the checkout, I don't say anything just so they don't see that I'm minus teeth or, you know, little things like that. It would be nice to just sort of go back out in society and sort of be normal.
The outcome I'm hoping for is an outcome that Sophie's happy with. If she's happy with it, then life's fantastic. I mean, I'd be quite happy if there was no further improvement on her looks, because at the end of the day, she's Sophie. It doesn't really matter.
He's been one of the main reasons why I haven't lost a lot of my self-esteem and a lot of my confidence, because of the way he treats me and the way he still loves me. I mean, he's never looked at me with abhorrence or, you know, any kind of, in terms of a space or anything at all. And yeah, really, I think he's one of the main reasons why I'm able to stay a lot of me.
Sophie and Scott are off to yet another meeting in Palmerston North for an update on the implant operation. There have been numerous delays and Sophie's eager for things to happen.
Because I've got double vision, I can only really drive for probably 1.5 hours. I get a really sore neck. So it means that I have to take Scott out of work and everything else too. which is, he wants to be part of it anyway, but it's just sort of an added stress really in terms of having to organise everything. I've actually been a bit nervous for the last couple of days before coming down here because I actually get to meet my implant, so yeah, a bit nervous about that, and it's kind of the last step to the operation. Well, this is the culmination of about 2 years' work to come to this stage. So, yeah, frustrating and a bit disappointing at stages, but it's just something you have to deal with.
So here's our implant. So you just need to put your hand on here in case it falls off. Yeah.
I have to grow neck muscles.
Certainly will.
Actually
You'll actually not notice it once it's in. It'll feel like it's part of you, and this implant will lift the eyeball into exactly the right position.
Yeah.
So let me just try this in so that we can. Okay, so you get the idea of where they've got to go. And the shade is not far out at all, is it? So you can see what my problem is. In order to get the teeth in the right position, it's going into the area where the lip is sutured to the top jaw. I don't really like stones not being unturned. I mean, as you know from your own experiences, some operations are carried out without any planning very much at all. It's, well, we'll do you on the table and see what happens. And I'm trying to move away from that way of thinking. This is just another example of trying to take the error out of what we do. In other sectors, they've moved well away from human endeavour.
They've tried, a couple of times to get me right, and a lot of it's been by eye. And with the technology that we've had in New Zealand, it hasn't worked. So, to me, as a patient, this makes total sense.
What Simon's going to do for us now is that he's going to produce facsimile cuts, the same sort of cuts that we'll be producing in the operating theatre to remove the old repair. And then what we'll be able to do is to test the path of insertion of the implant. So if we make any mistakes, we make it at this stage rather than in the operating theatre. And then we'll have to make a third cut at the front through. We may have a little bit of easing to do to get the implant to fit in that position. So these are the important things to find, that the fit here is being held up with an undercut, yeah? So what we need to do is to open this up a little bit more so it slides on. If this had happened in the operating theatre, it might have taken us an extra hour to sort out at something like $5,000 or $6,000 an hour. The correct amount of thought and planning, you can guarantee that these things fit without any hitches. So I think that this is the advantage of this technique over doing things by eye in the operating theatre. And I think it's just a matter of time before surgery moves in this direction.
That's looking good, Nina.
I think that's excellent. We've got perfect fit. Teeth are going to fit on the bottom. These sorts of implants have been around for 60-odd years, and all we're doing is that we're making implants that fit the patients exactly. That's the only new thing about this technology. The actual surgery itself is well tried and tested.
I think I've got a little bit of work to do emotionally, and I think that's just around accepting the implant. I think holistically, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I think if I get to the stage where I can accept it before it goes in, then I think my body will accept it a lot easier.
The new teeth, another high-tech implant, also needs some finishing work.
Okay, so we're just tapping these copings on to stop the ceramic exploding. If the dental technicians here had built ceramic up around them before we did this, it would just pop off, just expands the sleeve slightly, which will happen the first time that they're knocked into place.
Sophie's teeth are individually made and coated with ceramic, the exact colour of Sophie's remaining teeth. Sophie's been without teeth for almost 2 years and restricted in what she can eat.
Now, what book should we read tonight?
She's also spent far too many days and nights in other cities away from her young family, as she's moved in and out of hospital for the series of procedures she's undergone.
Once the princess spent her days playing.
Finally, Sophie arrives for the operation she hopes will give her her looks back.
Well, we're going to put the implant in today, and this is the culmination of about 2 years' work, and going through lots of engineers really until we managed to find a team that could deliver, and they've all worked very hard on it.
I think it's kind of one of the last-ditch efforts to reconstruct me and make me look like me again, get my eye in the right place, sort out my cheekbones, sort out my teeth. So worst-case scenario is that it doesn't work, and that my optic nerve is affected and I lose the sight in my eye. Best-case scenario is that I get to looking like a lot more like my old self again. So, and I'm quietly confident that that will be the case.
I've got no control over this. Just got to wait and see. We always go in, we're prepared, we're told the worst case scenario, this is what can happen. And unfortunately, well, from my perspective, we always seem to come out with a result that's worse than the worst case scenario. So there's been continual sort of disappointments, as much as all the preparation and the efforts that have gone to been great. So I guess I'm guarded on my expectations on this.
They're expecting the procedure to take around 3 hours. In fact, it will end up almost 3 times longer than planned.
I'm just going over my old incision. I've been back here twice before, so I'm just drawing an outline. This is the access we're going to use to the face. We're going to take the facial flap and flip it open that way, so we can gain access to the cheek. So that's our incision line. Gardening gloves on.
Stage 1 is to carefully clear away the area which has already undergone reconstruction.
For the viewers back home, we're about to start, so we're going to make the incision now.
Carefully to prevent any further nerve damage.
This is an electrocautery device, and so this is like your kitchen, whereas it cuts and seals at the same time. It's just like a pen. And we're just coming down now onto my previous reconstruction, which we're going to have to cut out, which is a humbling thing. It didn't work. We had some titanium in there and it didn't sit right. It wasn't engineered, it was just guessed at the time of surgery. Can you hold that back inside first? Fresh ray techniques. We do quite a lot of these reconstructions and they don't all end up like this. I mean, everything we've tried to do for Sophie hasn't really gone right. And it's mostly centered around her eye and her orbit, and it's a very difficult thing to get right. But I mean, this isn't to give you the idea that, you know, we do about 100 of them a year and most of them go well. But when they don't work, you keep trying to layer things on top of each other to make them work. At the end of the day, the best thing to do is pull it all out and start again and put something totally accurate in, and that's the plan. And so unfortunately, the whole lot's got to come out. That's plastic, but you can see the body's grown into the plastic and it's just like a piece of bone, but it's actually just a honeycomb plastic material.
The initial surgery to remove the tumour used bone from her leg to help reconstruct her face.
That has been shaped to form a new maxilla, and it's living tissue, it's bone and it's part of her. It just wasn't good enough, I guess.
It's a critical phase. Surgeons are working close to the optic nerve as they prepare to slide the implant into place. But immediately they strike problems.
This is where our optic nerve is, and that's the base of the thing. You've got this shooting way behind.
The optic nerve's further behind here than the edge.
But don't forget, the eye's been dropped down really low.
The optic nerve is lying lateral to where the strut goes. When
the eye's in the normal position, but the eye's been dropped down for like 2 years.
Yeah. But at the base of the skull,
I can't safely dissect that thing there out the way.
Right.
You just can't go there. We can go there, but she's going to go blind.
Sophie's now been on the operating table for more than 4 hours. They only expected the entire operation to take 3 hours, but they're not even halfway.
Still held up at the back by that bloody thing.
The biggest problem that we've had so far is with this strut. And this strut transmits the load of the biting forces up through the base of skull. And it's essential to have this piece. Otherwise, the bite forces have to be taken by all the screws. Over a period of time, you get some metal fatigue and the thing would get loose. Yeah? So the problem is that the optic nerve, the nerve of vision, lies very close to where this strut was positioned on the model. This was taken into account with the design, but it's still been very, very difficult to dissect all the scar away from the area without injuring the optic nerve, but we managed to do that as far as we can tell. I think that what we need to do is to work on the tolerances a bit more, because we've been working to engineering tolerances which are very difficult to replicate in the operating theatre, and we don't know how accurately a surgeon has to work.
While Mark cuts away even more scar tissue, Ninian prepares Sophie's new teeth. But there's a second problem.
There's something at the back there stopping it from going in. There's carotid canal, and you've got this thing here sitting right on your carotid canal, okay, like a millimetre away from the edge of the implant. And it's in a block of scar tissue, 3 times previously resected.
They can't cut away any more tissue, so changes now need to be made to the implant itself.
Beauty. Look at that.
Though gory, it's a remarkable scene as the implant slides neatly into place. As soon as it's safely in place, tension dissolves into a satisfied relief.
It's gone good. You know, there's been some unforeseen things with the placement of the implant, but overall it's amazing. It looks fantastic, so yeah, really pleased with it. As usual, they always fit. Ninian's implants always fit. They just sometimes need a bit of help.
I anticipated a lot of the problems that Mark had, but there was very little that I could do about it, starting from scratch. And having seen it and talked to him, it means the next one that we do, we'll be able to help him in what he's got to do, which is fit the implant.
Ninian now prepares a collagen sponge soaked with growth hormone called BMP, bone morphogenetic protein. This substance helps Sophie's cells to form bone. Put simply, the collagen will be absorbed and replaced with a layer of bone coating the titanium implant.
What I'm doing now is that we're going to make a little cage to fit over the front of the implant that will hold the BMP in place, yeah?
The protective cage will dissolve a few weeks after surgery.
We're using this material rather like a cement building a wall, you know, or a mortar, so that we're covering over the join of the implant with a bone. We can eliminate facial deformity because we can replicate normal anatomy precisely. And this is something that my clinical colleagues, many of them find difficult to accept because they're not used to working to this level of precision in the operating theatre. What we have to do, in my opinion, is make this treatment available for hot cases. So if somebody comes in with a fresh tumour going to theatre in 10 days' time and an implant like this is required, we need to be in a position to provide that implant for the surgeon for that particular patient and that particular solution. And at the moment we can't do that because I have to have these implants made abroad.
Eight hours later, it's all over. But once again, Sophie's had a tougher time than anyone expected.
I think it went very well, and sort of minor hiccups that we had really with respect to just trimming the implant, because the tolerance was so accurate. It was difficult to strip all the scar tissue away without being absolutely sure that you're not injuring something important. How have you been bearing up?
Oh, I've finished the 550-page book. Normally I bugger off and go and do stuff, but I just felt I wanted to hang around this one.
I think this is going to look very good.
Yeah.
Days later, Sophie's vision is improving.
Had a pretty lousy couple of days, but I've got over that and just onwards and upwards, and I'm feeling better and better all the time, and my mouth is moving and my eyes starting to open and I can see, which is great because that was one of my fears, that my optic nerve would be damaged, and I can open my eyelid. I've just got to get my brain back into it, thinking that, you know, I've now got two eyes that are in the right position and that can see properly. With my mouth being tethered down and having that much movement, I've had to train myself to speak in a certain way, in terms of using my lips a lot and using my tongue a lot. And I don't know how I'm going to swap it back over now that I've got a proper palate, like it's just a normal shape, which is kind of bizarre in itself. So yeah, I'm not quite sure yet how I'm going to go back to being how I used to speak. But Mark's pretty excited, I think, about getting me looking back to, you know, fairly much what this side looks like. But I was kind of hoping he would do a little bit of tweaking around here too and make me look a bit younger.
There's still a shakedown period as the implant settles. There'll be daily exercises for years to come and further cosmetic surgery down the track.
So what I'm doing is I'm massaging my skin, my lower eyelid up. It's because it's dropped down and scarring down. What I'm trying to do is help loosen that scarring, or stop some of that scarring, and loosen all this area up so that we can passively start moving the lower eyelid up to where it should be.
It is incredible. It's really sitting in a good spot. So, I mean, this is easy to fix.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
What, the
everyday.
lid?
Yeah, it's everyday cosmetic
Oh,
stuff.
really?
I mean, it's like a hemi facelift. So get everything structural in the right place, and then we wait and see, because you've lost a lot of natural fat, then anything that's needs filling would do once all the structural stuff is stable.
Okay.
Because you put too much fat in, you know, not enough, so you've got to get that right. So probably a good sort of 6 to 8 months away from putting that filler in. Because you lost all the muscles and nerves that move that side of the face, it's like having a stroke, so it's droopy. And that's because there's no muscles to hold it up in place. So regardless of what the bone structure is underneath it, she kind of looks like she's had a stroke, which is exactly what's happened. The facial nerve's gone on that side, and it won't grow back. So our job is to resuspend the face with stitches and hold it back up so it's symmetrical on both sides. When she smiles, she'll smile on one side and that won't move. But at least at rest, she'll look normal. I don't know the answers to that. Really just want to get her anatomy right and get her functioning and back to work and out of this sick role. I mean, I've lost a lot of sleep over Sophie over the last few years, trying to get her right, and just thinking, imagine if that was me or my daughter or my wife that had to go through that. So it's not been easy. I felt pretty bad about the whole thing, really. Not that it was anyone's fault, it was just one of those things that happened.
So this is called a TheraBite, and I have to use this 7 times a day to open up my mouth, because all the scar tissue coming in through the cheek area is basically making my mouth slowly close down, which is what it did after the last operation. And basically I'll be doing this aggressively probably for the next year, and then I'll be able to start doing it maybe once or twice a day following that.
There's a daily cocktail of strong pain relief and antibiotics to halt infection. And Sophie has become needle phobic. It's all happening slower than Sophie hoped. Scott continues to insist he loves Sophie no matter what.
I don't think it's ever going to be fixed 100% how we'd ultimately like. But one day it will be fixed to a point where it won't be fixed anymore. When that is, I don't know. I would have thought, we would have had that by now.
Weeks later, Sophie's back on the road, driving herself this time to Auckland for more treatment.
Kind of nice to have a break from the children and have some of my own time, but obviously I miss my little family down in Taupo, and poor old Scott's having to wear the looking after them and their after school activities and everything else, and having to leave work early to pick them up from school and daycare.
Sophie's investigating anything that might enhance the outcome. Today it's treatment in a hyperbaric chamber. The theory is the pure oxygen pumped into the chamber encourages the growth of blood vessels. The aim is to support the recovery of tissue.
In terms of coming and doing the hyperbaric was that it would help the cells, which I think it has done. The redness has reduced quite a lot, and the skin feels a lot softer, and it's a lot more similar colour now, which is good.
Sophie's not been daunted by the last operation. For Scott, there's hope that after years of trying to keep the family going and keeping Sophie's spirits up, life can get back to a place where medical appointments no longer dominate.
Do you want to try and put them down here now?
But at the moment, that's a long way into the future.
There's so much scar tissue in there that the vessels, etc., aren't connecting up, so we're not getting the drainage happening, and it's just slowly building up. So we need to sort that out. The other thing that's happening too is it feels like it's sticking to the titanium implant here. Do you want to have a little bit of a drink? So what can happen over time is the skin can thin out and the titanium can actually ossify through the skin. So the concern we've got at the moment is that this could actually already be happening, which was kind of like the worst case scenario when we were talking about putting the implant in, and it could possibly be happening already. I'm generally an optimist, and I just keep getting knocked back. It's just kind of, well, give me a break. We've tried reconstructing me, I think we're up to my 4th time. Here's full front stuff, custom made, titanium, really excited. This is it. And I'm just getting these knockbacks. And, I sort of genuinely believe if we'd had this technology in New Zealand when it happened 3 years ago, I'd probably be fine. I'd be hunky-dory and be on the way. But unfortunately, because we're kind of down the path and I've had a number of operations, I think the scar tissue and everything that's happened has caused these complications.
She's come so far, but it's not far enough for Sophie. And the endless delays and complications are wearing her down. Scott's the only one to really explain how she's feeling.
That's her nature. She'll put on a front for people that you're not family or close. So, but I'll see all sides. I think she's. This last week hasn't been good, but she just works through things, and then she'll pop out the other end.
I'm not going to quit. I've only just turned 40. I've got 2 young children. I've got a great job, a loving husband. I've got everything to live for. I'm not going to quit. Yeah, it's scary. Yes, I have good cries. I had my first panic attack the other day, which I've never had and was very scary, but never quit, no.
I think it's been going on too long. And there's no answers. There's no answers that you can pin your head on and say they're going to work. I mean, the implant was like that was the final thing that was going to save everything. And we've still got issues. There's moments I get frustrated because Sophie she has these expectations, demands that I just can't fulfil, in so much as that I can't offer a solution. I can't fix things. All I can do is do what I can do and support it.
Scott's been absolutely fantastic. I couldn't have asked for more, really. Disfigured wife, but he's never, ever looked at me like that. He's been completely supportive. He totally loves me for who I am, and it's just fabulous.
I know what I see, and I'm quite happy with what I see. I just can't change what she sees, and I'd like to.
We'll just keep going. however many it takes to get me as right as I can be.
The bare titanium has started to push through her cheek. The wound constantly weeps. More surgeries required.
Today they're going to try and raise the lower eyelid. After the last operation with gravity and scarring, it's dragged down, so they're going to take a segment of skin up through here and create a bit of a sling, which they'll attach to the bone that's there and probably to the titanium. And they're going to take some fat from other areas of my body and just put it up through this area. Just to match my other side, the fat pad that I used to have there got taken away basically in my first operation, so they're going to even it all up.
We're going to drain this little bit of infection, just have a little good look around, make sure everything's looking okay. Then we're going to lift this skin off the implant. It's stuck down onto the implant, but it's stuck quite low. And we really need to lift this eyelid up, and then finally bring the cheek up and stitch the cheek back into place. You can see some of the implants become exposed, and that's normal as the skin retracts around it, but overall the thing's taken very nicely. She's got a good shape. And there's no bone there, there's just this plastic thing still there, which needs to come out.
The cage put in to protect the BMP and help promote bone growth hasn't dissolved as expected.
The BMP was probably just way too ambitious. But you know, you live and learn, I guess, and we'll take it out. And with this sort of surgery, there's nothing in the books. You just have to make it up as you go along.
This undissolved protective material may have been responsible for many of Sophie's infections. To protect her cheek from the bare titanium implant, surgeons have had to create a protective barrier with a good blood supply out of Sophie's own tissue, muscle and more bone.
They made a decision that they'd take part of my shoulder blade or my scapula with some muscle and some fatty tissues, etc., and basically create a free flap, put that over the titanium that's in there, hook it into the veins and etc., arteries in my neck, which allows it then to live on its own, because skin needs the deep blood source and the source of blood running through its surface as well, and that free flap will provide that deep blood source for the skin. And already the change in the colour of my skin has just been amazing. The teeth? Oh, they've gone. They did take the teeth out. Yes, I forgot. They and it's so ironic because in February when they put the titanium in, I said I don't mind about the teeth, but when I had the teeth in, it's actually surprising how much of a difference they made. And so to have lost them again is kind of funny. But I'm hopeful by my birthday next year, so in about 6 months' time, I'll have them back in again. So we're going to watch how I go, let this all settle down, and in about 6 months' time, fingers crossed, touch wood, everything else, that's when I can actually begin on the cosmetic side of things and get me starting to back looking to me again, which should have already happened by now. This was a major one, and I found it really tough, but it had to be done. So I think I'll keep doing what has to be done. It does mean more surgeries, but the society we live in today, also it's very hard to live when you've got quite a big disfigurement that is on the face.
It was a tumour. They thought an operation would remove it and that would be the end of it. Instead, many operations and tens of thousands of dollars later, Sophie lives with unfinished business in a world where surgery is not yet a perfect science.